Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to yet another class. Um, this is telecommunication management. Okay, before we dive into what we have today, let's do a recap of what we did last week. We started with what is telecommunication. We established some facts last week on telecommunication, which I'm very sure most of us are already conversant with it. First of all, we said telecommunication is the transmission of information from between people that are separated by distance. So this communication of people could be anything. It could be communication, exchange of information in diverse forms. Take note of this. Then we talked about the examples of telecommunication. Then these are the 3 units where how we should have this at the back of our mind at every point in time. These are the 3 basic units of telecommunication, which is the transmission. What is the transmission medium? The transmission signal. Then this back the information, the signal back to the information, so that there will be a proper understanding of what is being communicated. The basic elements, we have the sender and we have the, okay. Part of what we discussed last week is talking about examples of different kinds of telecommunication. We talked about the navigation light, talked about different types of telecommunication. Smoke was being used to communicate. Navigation light is being used to communicate. So these are other types of telecommunication, because at the end of the day, you discover that information is being passed. And this information, when it is being understood, then you can say communication has taken place. Okay. Back to what we'll be doing today. Exchange of information through the use of speech, signals, or symbol is called communication. The exchange of information through the use of speech, signal, or symbols is called communication. Understand that when early human beings started speaking, some 500 million years ago, that was when the first mode of communication. Before we dive into the modern technologies that drive communication in contemporary world, we need to know how human beings develop better communication technique. Okay, we're talking about, first of all, we experience the history of communication. Communicating with human being over a distance is known as telecommunication, just as we established last week. The first form of telecommunication were smokes, drums, or fire torch. The major disadvantage with this communication system was that only a set of predetermined message could be transmitted, in the sense that it has a kind of a fixed communication, a type of fixed message. Take for instance, for your smoke communication could mean 3 things back then. It could mean that there is danger. It could mean that since there is danger, everybody should run away. It could mean that something is taking place somewhere, that everybody needs to come down to that place. So these are actually what the disadvantage that it came with back then. Okay, so that is it. So let's talk about the history of networking, because you can't we can't be talking about communication and you won't talk about networking, because the two can't actually be separated. They can't actually be separated. The first kind of network which was created is called ARPANET. ARPANET. ARPANET, the full meaning of ARPANET is Advanced Research Project Agency Network. ARPANET, Advanced Research Project Agency work. It is regarded as the granddad of the internet. The granddad of the internet was being established by the U.S. Department of Defense. The work was established. The work for establishing the network started in the early 60s, and the Department of Defense sponsored major research work of it, which resulted in development on initial protocols, languages, frameworks for network communication. So you should be able to know this, that the first network which was being established was called ARPANET, and it was developed by the Department of Defense, USA, and it was being established in the 1960s. Every framework that comes along with this ARPANET, or the whole framework, starting from the initial development protocols, that is, when I mean protocols, that is the rule of engagement, the rule of communication, the way information is being passed, the way information is being passed, the way information is being transmitted, the way information is being converted. That is the protocol. That is what the protocol was being developed by the DoD. And secondly, the languages which was used in the development of it. All of these were being encompassed. DoD was the first people that created the first network. So then the second means of communication is what we call the internet. The internet. It is called the internet, it is called the internet because it was expanded from the ARPANET. It was being expanded from the ARPANET. Understand that the internet is a collection of different communication systems. Different communication systems. This is what makes up the internet. So the ARPANET expanded to connect the DoD with various universities within the US that was carrying out defense-related research. It covered most of the universities, major universities across the country. The concept of networking got a boost when the University of London connected to the ARPANET. So since it started from the US and major other universities begin to connect to it, that was what gave birth to the internet. Just like I said there, communication systems scattered all around the globe makes what is called the internet. Then from there we go on to what is called the telnet. The telnet. The telnet was the first commercial adaptation of the ARPANET, introduced in 1978. With this, the concept of internet service provider was also introduced. The main function of the ISP is to provide undisrupted internet connection to its customers at affordable rates. Then now, what is the telnet? Telnet is an application protocol used on the internet or local area network to provide a bidirectional interaction, text-oriented communication facility using a virtual communication. So as we are talking right now, this is a function of the telnet per se, because in to one end, you are actually hearing my voice, and it is actually being made available by the internet service provider which I am using. They are the one that is giving me the enablement due to the subscription which I have made. Okay. The World Wide Web. The World Wide Web is the commercialization of the internet. World Wide Web is the commercialization of the internet. Okay, due to our time, I really want to rush so that we actually get so many things done this afternoon. They're going to be checking the years of development, the years of milestone or development in the telecommunication world. So the first breakthrough which we had in the telecommunication world was in the year 1957, which brought about the ARPANET, which is called the Advanced Research Project Agency, formed by the US. That was in the year 1957. Then the second one is ARPANET then became functional in the year 1969. In the year 1969, it became functional. Then in the year 1970, ARPANET was connected to the BBNS. Was connected to the BBNS. Then in the year 1972, Roy Thomason developed a network messaging, which is called the email. Then in the year 1973, ARPANET was connected to the Royal Radar Network of Norway. 74 brought about the term internet, coined in the first commercial use of ARPANET, which is called the Telnet. Then in the year 1982, brought about what is called the TCP/IP protocol, which is the standard protocol for your internet. It is called the Transfer Communication Protocol, Internet Protocol. Then in the year 1983, the domain name system was introduced. Domain name system, which is called the DNS systems. It was introduced. In the year 1986, National Science Foundation brings connectivity to more people with what is being called as the NSFNet program, and so on like that. Then the year 2004 brought about what is called the Web 2.0. Web 2.0. Okay, understand this thing that we have what is called Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0. In your Web 1.0, what we actually had was sites were actually static, in the sense that you can actually interact with the other entities, the owners of a site. That was what was the Web 1.0. So all you could go to the site to do was just go there to get information. You could just log in there, get information about concerning something, and if you really want to get across to them, all you have to do is to perhaps you copy out their emailing address, or you copy out their telephone number to get across to them. So that was what Web 1.0 was all about. Then Web 2.0 started with what is called a dynamic kind of site. Dynamic kind of site, which is what we are enjoying these days. You could actually communicate with the other entities by text messages, by emailing, by video conferencing. What we are actually at this point in time, we are still in Web 2.0, because it was with the enablement of Web 2.0, you can actually hear me. So this is Web 2.0, which we're still enjoying. Then Web 3.0 is kind of advanced. Web 3.0 have to do with having avatar. It comes with a special kind of technology, coming with its own special kind of tools. Web 3.0 enables individuals to have a feel or sensation of what is happening in the internet world. So, okay, for that, we are going to be talking about the channels of communication, the channels of communication. What are the channels of communication? There are various types of the channels. That is, at each point in time, what are the various things that enable us as human beings, as we are communicating now? What are the things which we might not be taking which we might have not taken note of, that is aiding our communication? The first thing there is called the physical medium. The physical medium. The physical medium, like the cables over which information is exchanged, is called channel. Transmission channel may be analog or digital. It may be analog or digital. For instance, now the channel which we are communicating now is called a digital channel. The transmission of the channel is in digital form because there is no wire that is connecting you and I. So whatever sound which I'm emitting from this place is being transformed into digital sound. It's being transformed and it gets across to your end. Then the transmitter converts it back to what has been produced. That is the first thing which you have to take note. As the name suggests, analog channel transmits data using analog signal, while digital channel transmits data using digital signals. So we should take note of that. Okay, and understand that the second thing which we should take note of is the data transfer rate. Data transfer rate. Data transfer rate is talking about the uplink and the download, the upload link and the download link of information, of data. That is the speed of which information leaves from my own end and gets to your own end, vice versa. So the speed of data transferred or received over transmission channel measured per unit is called data transfer rate. Data transfer rate is being referred to as the data transferred or received measured per unit time is called data transfer rate. The smallest unit of measurement is bits per second. Bits per second. Okay, here are some common used data transfer rates. So we have 1 bit per second, which is equals to 1 byte per second. 1 byte per second. We have 1 kilobyte. 1 kilobyte. When we say 1 kilobyte or when we say 1 bit per second, you are talking about 8 bits per second. 8 bits per second. Then when you talk about 1 kilobyte per second, you are talking about 1024 bits per second. Then when you talk about 1 megabyte per second, then what you are equally saying is 1024 kilobytes per second. Then we have 1 gigabyte per second. So these are the various data transfer rates. Data transfer rates. Understand that a message or a communication channel that is using 1 megabyte per second, you can actually equate it with the one that is using 1 kilobyte per second. So these are data transfer rates. Then the third thing which we have to take note of is called the bandwidth. Data transfer rate that can be supported by a network is called the bandwidth. the bandwidth. It is measured in bit per second also. It is measured in bit per second. Modern day network provide bandwidth in bit per second. The modern day network provides bandwidth in kilobytes per second, megabytes per second, and gigabytes per second. Okay, some of the factors affecting a network bandwidth include network device. Network device with the current trend of our technology, with the current trend of our use of phones and systems, you discover that now it is we are having what is we have now what is called 5G. You understand, at each various segment of it, the transfer rate, the bandwidth is getting more bigger, and the way with that you discover that information becomes very fast. You discover that now you have what is called your 3G SIM, your 4G SIM, and probably by the end of the year we should start having a 5G SIM. So you discover that on all this, the transfer rate, the bandwidth there are wide and making information to become very fast. So one of the factors that affects your bandwidth is the network device use. That is the network device which you are using. Then the second thing that affects it is the protocol that is being used. Number of users connected, network overhead per collision errors. These are the 4 major things that affect your bandwidth. The next thing here which we are going to be talking about is called the throughput. The throughput is the actual speed with which data gets transferred over the network. Throughput is the actual speed with which data gets transferred over the network. Besides transmitting the actual data, network bandwidth is used for transmitting error messages, acknowledgement frame, etc. Throughput is a better measurement of a network speed, efficiency, and capacity utilization rather than the bandwidth. So these are two different entities, the bandwidth and the throughput. But in the real sense, understand that the throughput is the actual measurement that is being used to acknowledge, to measure the efficiency of a network, the speed of a network, the throughput. So you should, from that we will go to what is called protocol. What is a protocol? A protocol is a set of regulations used by a device to communicate over the network. A protocol is a set of instructions, set of regulations used by a device to communicate over a network. So you understand what this place is actually telling you is that in a situation whereby you need to communicate with an entity on the other side of the world, the protocol in place is that once you pick whichever means which you want to use to get across to the person, take for instance, you want to call someone, you pick up the person's number and you dial. First of all, what happened is that an acknowledgement is being sent to the person. A channel is being created. First of all, once the channel is being created, the channel is being created so that if the other entity is available, then an acknowledgement is being sent back before the communication takes place. That is what the protocol is. That is what the protocol for communication states. So for you on the other end, but both ends, you might not actually know this is what has actually taken place. But due to the type of the build, due to the speed of it, that is what has actually taken place. So the protocol is a set of regulations used by the device to communicate over the network. Just like humans, computer also need rules to ensure successful communication. If two people start speaking at the same time or in different languages with no interpreter present, no meaningful exchange of information can occur. So similarly, device connected on the network. The device connected on the network need to follow rules defining situation, like when and how to transmit data, when to receive data, how to give error-free messages. What are the types of protocols which are being used now? We have what is called transmission control protocol, internet control protocol, point-to-point protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. Then we have the internet message access protocol. These are the types of protocols which we have. And perhaps by the next class, we are going to be treating all of them one after the other. One after the other, we're going to be treating them. The transmission control protocol, which is called the TCP/IP protocol, the internet protocol. Then we have the point-to-point protocol. Then we have file transfer protocol. We have hypertext transfer protocol. Then we have the internet message access protocol. Okay. Then still under this channel, remember that we are talking about the channel, that is everything that aids communication. Everything that aids communication. The next thing here which we'll be talking about is the switching techniques. Switching techniques. What is a switching technique? Okay. In a large network, there may be more than one path for transmitting data from sender to receiver. Selecting a path that data must take out of the available option is called switching. Or can also be referred to as switching technique. There are two popular switching techniques, which is called the circuit switching and the packet switching. Circuit switching and the packet switching. Okay, what is let's talk about circuit switching. When a dedicated path is established for network transmission between sender and receiver, it is called circuit switching. When a dedicated path is established for data transmission between sender and receiver, it is called circuit switching. When a network node wants to send data, be it audio, video, text, or any type of information, a call request signal is sent to the receiver and it is acknowledged. When any network nodes want to send data, be it audio, video, text, or any type of information, a call request, a request is first of all being sent to the receiver. And if this receiver is available at that point in time, an acknowledgement is being sent back to ensure validity, availability of that dedicated path. A signal is being sent, a request is being sent first of all. That is why you discover that when you pick up your phone or any way you want to make it, perhaps you want to make a call, understand that this is what actually takes place. This is what takes place. A request is being sent to the receiver. Then if the receiver at that point in time is available, then an acknowledgement is being sent back, is being returned. Then there will be an establishment of an availability. So that at that point in time, the receiver is telling you that, okay, I'm available. Then that is how he sends back the acknowledgement. Then there is an establishment of a path. This dedicated path is then used to send data ARPANET use what is called circuit switching for communication over the network. What are the advantages of circuit switching? Circuit switching provides this advantage over switching technique. Once a part is set up, the only delay is the transmission speed. Once a part is set up, the only delay is the data transmission speed. No problem of congestion or landed messages. What are the disadvantages of this circuit switching? Long setup time is required. Long setup time is required. A request token must travel to the receiver and then acknowledged before any transmission can happen. Line may be held up for a long time. Line may be held up for a long time in a situation whereby the receiver is not available. It may be held up. Then let's go to packet switching. Packet switching. Okay, as we discussed, the major problem with circuit switching is that it needs a dedicated line for transmission. In packet switching, data is broken down into smaller packets, with each packet having source and destination addresses. Okay. Understand that in this kind of situation, in this kind of protocol, understand that in the first protocol, which is called your circuit switching, messages that are being transferred there are not being regarded as packets. Understand, for your packet switching, once messages leaves the receiver or leaves the sender, it is being transferred to packets. So messages online, messages in channel, messages in transit are called packets. They are called packets. So understand that in these two of them, the signal for two of them are actually different. This one is called message packet. It calls the message which is being transferred. It sees it as packet. And for this, each of them, for the packet, for the information that is being transferred, all of them have what is called address, the addresses. Okay, let's come back. As we discovered, the major problem with the circuit switch is that it needs a dedicated line for transmission. In the packet switching, data is broken down into smaller packets, with each packet having source and destination address, traveling from one router to the next. Traveling from one router to the next. Okay. Due to our time, this is where we will call it a day. At this junction, please, if you have any question, please, this is the time for you to ask questions. Time for questions, please. Okay. Assignment. Before then we'll come back to questions. Assignment. Write a summarized note. Write a summarized note on telecommunication architecture. Write a summarized note on telecommunication architecture, stating the following. Write a summarized note on telecommunication architecture, stating the following: electronic communication system, electronic meeting system, business process system. Write a summarized note on telecommunication architecture, stating the following: electronic communication system, electronic meeting system, business process system, alongside with their examples. alongside with their examples. First of all, how you're supposed to do this assignment. First of all, you write a note on what is called telecommunication architecture. Under telecommunication architecture, we have what is called the electronic communication system, electronic meeting system, and business process system. Then each of them, you have to give a detailed example of each of them. A detailed example of each of them. So the email, like before now, I said something with my previous classes. Please, when submitting this assignment, please, the subject should be the course title, preferably the course title. Then state the question, then you answer it beneath it. The course title for the subject, then you state your question, then you answer them. Please. The email which is to be submitted still remains sharonchris29@gmail.com. sharonchris29@gmail.com. Then my number is 08133121309. In case you need any help or you need any help on any of what has been said so far, please. We still have about 2 minutes remaining. Please, if you know you have any question, this is the time for you to ask. Please, questions, please, before we call it a day. I'm still waiting. We have less than a minute remaining.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Please, can you please? It's not.
This is Damilare. This is Damilare.
Okay, Damilare. Okay. Damilare, I'm with you. Hello, Damilare, I'm with you. Hello, Damilare, I'm with you.
Taking all this course, or Mr. Benita.
Damilare, can you get across? Can you get across to me on WhatsApp on 08133121309? Because we have our time.
Yeah, I have a WhatsApp number. Don't worry, I'll get back to you, sir.
Okay, better.
All right, sir. Okay.
Can we discuss?